Good evening, Toastmasters. Well, I'm here to talk about walls. I'm here to talk about growth. And as some of you know from my other speeches, I think I'm beginning to find my voice in this room, this very room, that everything connects to being on Smallville. And that certainly happened last month. So let's back up. Let's go back a long way in time to when I was 19 years old. And I departed Dayton, Ohio, bound for London. I was scheduled to study that summer in New College at Oxford. So my friend Priscilla and I, who were dorm mates, decided that we would take about 10 days before studying in Oxford to be able to do some travel on the Brit Rail Pass. Well, we took our overnight plane, we landed, we got on the British Rail, and we made a quick stop in the town of Durham to see the Durham Castle, in case any of you know what that is. Well, we agreed that we would get back on the train at 3:30, and there I was, and Priscilla was nowhere on the train. I walked up and down the train, I looked in all the other cars. I had no choice but to continue on that train all the way to Edinburgh. I had never been out of the country. No one in my family had. I just got my passport. There was no internet, there were no cell phones. I hit the fear wall. Like, really, what was I gonna do? I was just scared. But I kept going, along with that train, all the way to Edinburgh, ended up at the exact bed and breakfast that Priscilla and I just discussed that we would likely go to. And the next day was entertained by other guests at the bed and breakfast. So we all went to the Edinburgh Castle together, and we were looking at all of the features of the castle and taking pictures, and boom, I ran into Priscilla. Lucky break. Priscilla had gotten food poisoning and stopped at a clinic in Durham, and so she took the next train. So the fear wall went down. Well, in the ensuing 40 years, I've had more than my share of scary moments and big adventures. I did Transpac in my 20s, got married right off the boat in Waikiki. I ended up in Mongolia riding camels. I raced, as you know, in the Rebel Rally. And there were other adventures like that. And they were almost always as a we. Because, you see, I married a man and I drafted off of his confidence. And that means that I didn't really think it was me. I always thought it was him, that all these ideas were his. And that I was just kind of going along because it was fun and it was cool, and of course I wanted to do it. But it really didn't ever feel like it was mine. And then what happened is, over time, he began to kind of opt out. And I saw myself taking initiative. I took my son on a trip on the old section of the Great Wall of China. We homestayed with a farmer. Stephen held the baby lamb. Cute pictures. We slept on a fire bed with like dirty blankets. And then I remember getting stuck in the jade factory, and Stephen at 9 told me, "Mom, you have to buy something or else they're never gonna let us out." I was like, oh, okay, noted. So it became a process where over time, it was me. So that was the permission wall. I began to see that I was holding myself back from an invisible wall. Sort of like how an elephant has a ring around one foot, and maybe when it's young, that's actually tied to a post. But as the elephant becomes older, it's so aware that it's still entrapped by that post that regardless of whether or not the ring is actually attached by chain to the post, the elephant stays in place. I was like doing that and didn't even realize it. Okay, fast forward to Chimborazo last month. So Cotopaxi, it turns out, is 7 feet higher than Kilimanjaro, and they're in the same country, they're both in Ecuador. And Cotopaxi is sort of the peak that the trekking company expects that you will climb. Like, they've decided that they're gonna take a week and they're gonna climatize you and you're going to make it, because that's like, you know, like, hey, we're gonna get great Yelp reviews if we do that. So we did Cotopaxi, except that my climbing partner from sea level ended up with high altitude retinal disorder and started to get some eye bleeding and needed to be rescued on the way down. So I became not just a client, but part of a mountain rescue. So the next peak, a few days later, both of these are all-nighters, is Chimborazo, which is 6,234 meters. This is not the one that they think that you're gonna make. So, standard issue, they wake us up at 10 p.m. We go to the food tent and we're there having coffee and cocoa to get out the door by 11. We're gonna climb overnight to go up 6,234 meters from about 16,000 feet. So it turns out that the climb profile, if any of you are familiar with gym equipment, you know there's always a climb profile, is basically 2.5 miles straight up, 40 to 60 degree incline. Now, at 4 a.m., I hit what I would consider to be wall. And my wall was a Sufferfest wall. My body was shaking. I just knew, I said to Christian, I'm like, how much further is my guide? And at this point, everybody else has turned back. And Christian is like, look, if you can make it, it's just like maybe another hour. And I'm like, look, in another hour, the sun's gonna be up. This is the coldest it's ever gonna be. This is the most I'm ever gonna shake. I got this. We kept going, and I was one of 8 people who summited, maybe out of 30 guests that night. Wow. And we summited around 6:15 in the morning. So that was the Sufferfest wall. The point of this story is that all of you in your daily lives hit walls, whether it's a fear wall, whether it's a permission wall, whether it's a Sufferfest wall. And I have good news for you. It's just a mental game. We've all got this. So I'm in Summit, and I'm here to tell the story. Madam Toastmaster.